Hi, today we are going straight into the detail of our sunflower. So we're going to be having a look at placing the detail layer on the sunflower. It's sometimes people think this is the most daunting part of the painting process, the final bit. I say final, but only you really know when your painting's finished. This part of painting sometimes can be really daunting, but I've got some tips for you to help you through the process and to make it a fun, enjoyable process, because I want to rouse on you a little bit. Painting shouldn't be stressful. Like, you shouldn't be sitting down and thinking, I'm going to fail at this isn't going to be what I want. Those are the wrong things to have in your head. Yes, I'm going to call them wrong. They're not welcome. Remember, we are on a creative journey, and the detail part of your painting is still a creation. You can still adapt it, you can change it. I'm going to show you what I mean, and I need to get right into it today, because usually a detailed part of my painting would sometimes take days, and I just want to show you in not more than half an hour how to do some of the details. I'm not 100% sure I'm even going to get finished today. I've got so much to cover. So first of all, you need to know what you want your final painting to look like. And I know that's asking a lot, but what I mean by that is, do you want it to have big black outlines like a cartoon? Do you want it to be really subtle? Do you want the background to be brighter? You need to have a little bit of an idea. The second thing is, you need to add your detail gradually, and you need to know that mistakes can be undone. But we're going to pick that apart, and we need to get started now. So you can see that my sunflower is quite flat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop out some of those details, starting with the middle. Now I've got 3 paintbrushes today. I'm using a 3, a 1 and a 0, and I'm going to go in with my 3, and I want to pop out some of these details in the middle. So I'm going to go in with a purple, and I'm going to pretend the other layers aren't precious at all, and I'm going to build a bit of shadow over on this side. And I want to go in with that first because I'm still laying quite a wet layer here, and I want to make sure that it dries when I come to use it later. Excuse my arm. I've got 2 different shades of purple there. If you don't have a purple in your paint pot, because I know the purple doesn't always come as standard, you just have to remember back to primary school and mix your red with your blue. My shading is going to be heavier on this side because that's the part that I'm putting in shade. Okay, so I'm also adding some brown in there. Don't worry about that for the moment. That's just going to settle, and it's going to be, we're going to work on it later. The other thing we want to do is we want to start to initialize, what's it called when you make something start? Anyway, reactivate. We want to reactivate this part of our blue. You can see this is really flat. I've seen a lot of your paintings and it's similar. So what we're going to do is we're going to sneak up with the clean paper, and we're not going over the petal. And then change your paintbrush out. I'm changing it out to my 0, and I'm taking my grey. Again, if you don't have a grey in your paint pot, if you mix some blue and black and a tiny bit of red, you'll get some sort of shade that you can use. And I'm outlining the outside of my petal. I've got too much water on that. There we go. So I'm outlining the outside of my petal, and then I'm moving some of the pigment around the page so it doesn't just look like a harsh line. If I didn't move it and I didn't wet it to begin with, I'd have more of a harsh line like that, and you might want to go with that. I don't particularly like it, so I like the lines behind the petal to be a bit fluffier. And this is just the trick I wanted to show you about finishing off your sunflower. You want the background to be in contrast with the foreground. So I'm using my blues and my greys. And instead of last time where I just layered it quite heavy, layered it quite quickly, I'm really going in where the petal is, and I'm letting the paint know that that's the edge of where I want it. Then when I add water, it creates its own outline. What you have to do with this section here then is you need to go in with a little bit of water and make it a little bit more flowing, if that makes sense. So it doesn't just look like a big outline in the middle. So can you, hope that makes sense and that bit's popped a little bit more. I'm going to work around the whole sunflower to do that, and then that's going to pop my sunflower out. I think traditionally when you kind of think back to school and you're like, you know, you were probably taught that you go in and you do a big outline and that's what makes it stand out. Well, this is a negative space outline, so we're colouring in the negative space around the petal. Because it's so contrasting, it really makes the petal pop. And if you start with your line right up against your petal, like that, and then you add your water, you sneak up to it with water, your line is still going to stay where you put it. So it's still going to outline your petal, but it's not going to look like you did that on purpose. It's going to look like, well, that just happened to be the background colour. So it kind of, it'll stay as a line, but it doesn't look like a placed line necessarily. So there's a few different ways to do it. You can wet it first, or you can go in second with your line. It just really depends how dark you want it. I play around with both because I think it's really good to have a bit of variety in how you do it as well, and it also just depends what's on your paintbrush at the time and how quick you're trying to be. So you'd work all the way around that. I'm using a grey and a blue, but what you want to do when you're down here in the greener sections, you want to get your grey, but you can also go in with a green. The green can do the same that the blue did, and in that way you're kind of just changing your background a little bit. Okay. So that's your first kind of tip. Again, I'm going really quickly. I usually wouldn't do it this quickly. I take a lot of time on my detail layer. You're going to take a lot more time on yours because you want to get your colours and your shapes right. So imagine we've done the whole outside, because I think I might have to do that later when I'm not on camera, because we want to focus on how to get the detail in the middle. So just to let you know, you'll continue to do your whole sunflower. I might not have time, so I'm going to go straight into the middle because I don't want you to miss out on that. So you can see that the middle that we did has gone a little bit shiny. It's not puddled, but it's still wet. So if we take the same principle, we're going to go at the end, at the outside of our circle, and I'm going to go in with some black and grey. Remember, I always mix your black with another colour. And this is where it starts to get a bit scary, because I feel like as soon as you introduce black, there's no turning back. Well, there is, but you know, it's not as easy. Okay, and here's the exciting bit. We are going to add an extra dimension to this sunflower. There's two different ways to do this. First of all, it's a bit wet. First of all, what you can do is just do it the way that I'm going to do it. But I'm also going to tell you a second way to do it if you have some white gouache as well. So I'm taking some extra petals that you can't see yet, that we're inventing, and they are popping out from the middle. I'm using a 0 paintbrush, and I'm trying to keep my lines suggestive. Then when I get up here, now this is what you do if you have gouache. If you don't have gouache, don't do this bit. Okay, so those ones fell down. Okay, you can only do that if you've got gouache, because we can put that over the top later and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going around with those little baby petals, and it doesn't matter that there's watercolor under it. This is the detail layer, and we can do what we want. Kind of. So there they are. I think they look awesome. Now what you want to do is while they're still wettish, you want to go around the outside, and you just want to make them fluffy, not too far. And what that does is that just creates a little bit of a shadow as opposed to an outline. If you like the outline, keep the outline. I don't love it. So go around and activate, that's the word I was looking for. Activate that watercolor. And you're making it feel as though it was always there. Why wouldn't it have been there? Just a little bit of a shadow there. Then what you're going to do is go in with a yellow. And I'm just going to put a little dab of orange on my yellow as well. And really do not spend a lot of time on this. You're just going to flick a little suggestion of colour along your flower. And don't worry if the grey comes off, that's just all part of the shadow. That's why we worked on it while it was wet. Remember, petals are transparent, so the fact that we can see things under them isn't a big deal. If you've got some gouache, I use this Winsor & Newton gouache, and I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of yellow. I think I've got some on there. And what the gouache does is it's opaque. And it doesn't like watercolor. So what it'll do is it'll sit on the top. It'll sit on the top. If you're using the gouache, because that's a different tone now, because it's a white mixed with the yellow, which we haven't used before, you will have to go along and add your highlight in for consistency to some of them, but I wouldn't go too over the top. It's just your eye kind of needs to see that that there's kind of no difference in the way the light's hitting it. Cool. All right, that's our petal layer, but you're thinking now about these petals that are really flat, so I want to show you again the trick that needs to be done with those. It's a two-part process. You're going to need to go in with some orange. I've got two different types of orange and a yellow, so I'm making kind of three types of orange. We're going to start with our middle of the road orange. If you've only got one orange, you can add red to it to make it a little bit deeper, and you can put the yellow in to make it a little bit less deep. Okay, so the middle part is going to be standard orange, and what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to find our original petals. I have no idea where they are, so I'm just going to make them up. And our original petals are going to have a line of orange and two lines next to it, then straight into the water on the side, and you are squiggling up that line. I'll show you again. So we don't want that one because we're saying this is an original. So we're saying this is an original. We take a line in the middle, two lines on the outside, and then take some water, and with your paintbrush on the side, you are squiggling up those lines. That's pretty much all it is. Take your two from down the bottom, and this is just because we want to make it tonal. I'm going to take this one here, this. And then we don't want any sharp lines. We just want the hint of a line. Then for the sunflowers that are on this side, we're going to add a little bit of purple to your dark orange, which is going to make brown, but it's an orangey brown. And then we're looking at this being the darker side, so we're looking and finding, oh my goodness, it's so hard, a petal here. You kind of just have to decide, don't you? Maybe one there. Okay. Take your paintbrush on the side, squish up that. I left that one a bit long. And then this side over here, our lightest side, go with your yellowy orange, because we want it to be quite lighter. So 3 marks, and then make them so they're not so precise. Okay, now what you need to do, we've done the parts of the flower that are at the top, the petals that are at the top. The petals that are under the other petals, we need them to have a shadow. So I'm just going to change to my number 3 paintbrush, and hopefully you've guessed how we're going to do that. We're going to do what we did over here. We're going to put a line where the 2 petals meet, here. Then we're going to grab our grey, so much to cover today. All right, then we're going to grab our grey, and we're going to take the grey in there. And that's the petal that is behind the other 2 petals, even though there's still an element of transparency here. So we're going to grab our grey. That's a little bit, oh well, let's see how that goes. Oh yeah, I can't leave it like that. It's got to be thinned out a little bit. There we go. This one. I think there's one under here as well. Definitely one under here. Okay. So I'm going to have to pause there for detail, because we have covered so much. You really have to go slowly with the detail, but I've tried to teach you 2 skills to apply to make the detail layer. First of all, don't outline the whole flower. Outline the negative space and then sneak up on the colour. That's what I want you to practice. Practice it on the outside of the sunflower first, and continue to make the outside mottled by adding in different blues or greens. Then I want you to try to outline the inside petal, the one that needs the shadow, in the same way. If you put on too much colour, you can always take it off quickly with another paintbrush or a piece of paper, so don't stress. You can't get this wrong as long as you're happy to experiment. Remember that the detail layer, the detail part of your work today is all about creating and practicing and playing. Don't get inside your head about it. I'm probably going to spend quite a bit more time with my sunflower today, so I don't want you to be under the illusion that this can be finished in 20 minutes. This might actually take a little while to finish, but those are the tricks to making your detail layer pop, and I hope you have found them useful. Remember, share with us how you go at this layer. Tomorrow, I want to check in with you guys, and I want to show you a different way that maybe you haven't thought of to finish this painting as well. And I want to share that with you tomorrow, as well as just spending time with you guys, because I really enjoy it, and I hope you have enjoyed it also. If you have enjoyed it, please do click the love heart button. A few people have asked how you can get the lives really quickly, and I think when you're watching a live in replay, it comes up with a always be notified about Art by Anna Marie's lives, so click that button as well, because I know how frustrating it is to miss the first 5 minutes and be like, oh, well, I'll just come back and watch it later. I genuinely don't mind if you watch this on replay. I think it's lovely. I love reading your comments, so also thank you so much for them. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow, creators. Bye.